Hi, this is author Lisa M. Lilly, and to go with the release of my latest QC Davis crime novel, The Skeptical Man, I thought I would read the first chapter. You can find The Skeptical Man in paperback or ebook editions. Links on my website at lisalilly.com/skeptical. That's LISALILY.com/skeptical. Chapter 1, The Murder Wish. I needed a murder. The thought darted through my mind before I could stop it. But I was appalled. It was a terrible thing to wish. Plus, my last investigation was why I was in my law office late tonight. I'd devoted months to looking into the long-ago murder of my sister, the original Quilcy Davis, during spring. It was worth the time, no question, but it led to my working long hours all summer. And summer is my favorite season in Chicago. Neighborhood festivals and parades take place every weekend. There's blues music, jazz, beer drinking, and loud bands. I skip both of those. Art and antique fairs. No matter what you love, it's out there. Cheese and caramel popcorn, Vienna beef hot dogs, and every other type of food you could want. The weather is warm and sunny, but the wind off Lake Michigan keeps downtown from turning into an oven. But I was inside. I needed to meet the deadlines on my cases, and I needed the money from those cases. My love life, or lack of it, stood in the way of a great summer, too. My boyfriend, Ty, was in Dubai for a 2-year work project. His company promised he could visit every few months, or I could fly there. So far, we'd seen each other once. At the thought of Ty, I stopped typing mid-sentence. It was barely 6, too early to call it a day. But I wasn't missing yet another outdoor concert with my friends. If I did, I'd feel too much like that person who can't have fun because she's not part of a couple, which I never wanted to be. The humidity made leaving the building feel like stepping into a sheet of warm rain. I took off my blazer and wound my long, wavy hair into a clip at the back of my head. My phone rang as I crossed Michigan Avenue and strode past the giant stone lions that guard the Art Institute. I was tempted to ignore it. I could already hear the orchestra warming up, but I was waiting to hear from a lawyer about a case I hoped to settle. I veered into the art museum's garden and answered. It wasn't the lawyer, but it was a judge. "Quill, so glad you picked up," Judge Julia Lopez said. "I need your help." Anything. I met Julia over a decade ago when I started thinking about law school. She's the main person who encouraged me to go. I still turn to her for career advice from time to time. Her husband had died this summer. I sent a sympathy card, paper, not digital, as my gram taught me to do, and left her a voicemail. But this was the first time I'd heard back. "I need you to investigate Randall's murder," she said now. Randall was murdered?" I sank onto a concrete bench, knees shaky as I thought of my wish for a crime to look into. But Julia's husband was already gone when I thought that. Not that I believed my thinking could make something happen. What about the police? I'd rather talk in person. Can you come to my chambers now? I rubbed the back of my neck, which felt tight and sore, often the sign of a migraine to come. I longed to meet my friends, who were waiting on blankets spread out before the Millennium Park bandshell, no doubt with a bucket of fried chicken and biscuits and home-baked brownies. But Julia needed to talk now, not tomorrow morning or later in the week. "Will the guards let me in?" I said. "The Daily Center, which houses state courtrooms downtown, closes at 6. Sorry, Julia said. "I've lost all sense of time lately. I'll make sure they do. Can I bring you anything? Coffee? Dinner?" They must have coffee in the judge's chambers, but maybe not after hours. And I knew firsthand that people don't always take care of themselves after someone they love dies. "Oh, no. Well, you're a tea person, aren't you?" Julia said. "Is there some sort of calming tea?" It was so like Julia to remember, despite her grief, that I drink tea, not coffee. I told her I'd be there in 20 minutes. The tea was literally called Calm. The last tea shop in downtown Chicago closed a few years back, but many coffee places remain. The third one I tried had herbal tea. While I waited in line, I reread the news articles about Randall's death on my phone. A passerby found his body just after 11 on a Sunday night below the 606. That's an elevated trail that runs through part of Chicago's northwest side. People walk, ride bikes, and jog there. It includes parks, art exhibits, and event spaces, too. Police believed Randall was mugged because his wallet was missing. Stab wounds slashed across his palms, suggesting he tried to defend himself from a knife attack. The articles included no quotes from Julia, but noted that she'd been in California at a bar association conference when her husband was killed. The barista handed me a paper cup so hot I shifted it from hand to hand as I hurried on to the Daily Center. Julia waited on the 24th floor, holding open the glass door to the judge's chambers. Her head barely reached my shoulder when we hugged. Her hair, which normally fell in straight silver sheets to her shoulders, straggled around her face. Makeup foundation caked in the fine lines around her eyes and lips. She was 55, but looked at least 10 years older. I sat in a leather visitor chair on the other side of her antique desk. After saying how sorry I was that all this happened, I asked about the cause of death. Julia's face paled as she told me it was a broken neck from hitting the ground beneath the 606 trail. She must have finished her court call hours ago, but she hadn't taken off her judge's robe. Her arms stick-thin poked out of her rolled-up sleeves. The police say it was a random mugging, but I'm certain it's not. Why? He was a magician. And that means I took out a small notepad and pen I always carry with me in my shoulder bag. 40 years of sleight of hand. He'd never fight someone over his wallet. He'd hand it over after slipping the cash out. I nodded. Maybe. Still, staring at a knife is scary for anyone. No one knows how they'll react. I had never met Randall. He and Julia married 3 years before his death, but he never joined us when Julia and I had dinner, and he didn't attend bar association events with her. Randall wasn't as short as I am. Julia's eyes became unfocused as she spoke, as if looking at the scene in her mind, but close, 5'5". He was thinner than me, but stronger, wiry. The police think he and the mugger scuffled. The mugger got the better of him and shoved him over the railing. Maybe so Randall couldn't identify them, but it doesn't fit. She shifted her gaze to me. When I was a public defender, I had that sense at times. I knew when the police were wrong. You felt it in your gut. Gut instincts matter. I analyze everything, yet sometimes the feeling in the pit of my stomach tells me a lot more, a lot faster. Yes, Randall's not a fighter. He talked his way out of things ever since he was a kid. Anything else? I said. His mom died the week after Randall did. I stopped the note I was writing. You think the deaths are connected? No. Julia's straggly silver hair swung side to side as she shook her head. It was pneumonia and Alzheimer's. She was a lovely woman, and there's nothing I can do. Not about her illness, not about her death. I took 3 weeks off after they found Randall. I could barely get out of bed, except for the funerals. Then I started coming here just to try and catch up. Today was my first day on the bench again, and I felt better, clearer. I don't know if that makes sense. It does, I said. When things go wrong for me, my office feels like the safest place, the one place I can control at least some of the world around me, the one place I can get something done. And I thought maybe I can do something about Randall's death, and I thought of you. She rolled her chair so its back rested against the shelves of worn law books behind her. You'll turn over every stone, same as you did for your sister's cold case and for Marco. Not many people who know me through my law practice know that I investigate crimes, too. It's not something I advertise. But when I started looking into my former boyfriend Marco's death, I asked Julia for her view of how the ethics rules for lawyers applied to that type of work. Later, she encouraged me to try to solve my sister's murder for the peace of mind it could bring my family. Even if I could fit a new murder investigation into my workload, I wasn't sure I should raise Julia's hopes. It's hard to accept random events, but sometimes a mugging is just a mugging. On the other hand, sometimes it's not. Is there someone who held a grudge against Randall? Before I left for the conference, he told me he was ruffling a lot of feathers. She stared out her floor-to-ceiling windows. She had a view of the silver bandshell at Millennium Park, where summer concerts are held, and of Lake Michigan stretching to the horizon. He worried it might reflect badly on me as a judge. Whose feathers? Clouds had formed outside as we talked. Gloom crept into the chambers. Julia turned on her desk lamp. The glow from her ruby-red glass shade cast shadows the color of blood across her forehead. He didn't give me any names. Any guesses what Randall might have done to ruffle feathers? Oh, that I know. He went after psychics and mediums he thought defrauded people. That is chapter 1 of The Skeptical Man. You can find links to it on my website at lisalilly.com. That's LISALILLY.com/skeptical. Thanks for listening.